Hello everyone. Hi Anna.
Hello.
So we had a couple of months break, and I think I went to Bangladesh and were a little bit busy, and Anna as well, having some busyness. And but today we welcome everyone for discussing cultivating cultural shifts, growing local economies through inclusion. How are you, Anna?
I'm good. Yeah, as we were talking about, I'm absolutely exhausted. But I've missed these monthly sessions, so I'm really excited to be back again today.
Me too, because it was busy, it was good, but I missed last 2 months because every month there is a schedule that we talk uh,
Yeah,
and routine and all those things. Doing it for last 2 years, and this is going to be 3 years now, but
yeah,
that's okay.
yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? It is, when you've got so much to do and you're overwhelmed. Like I always harp on about like making sure you're doing things regularly, but things do get in the way in life and other
Yeah.
priorities, and we need to make sure we're not burning out as well. So it is really important.
Yes, I totally agree. So we're going to be discussing today cultivating cultural shifts. Are we there? I don't know. I don't know. It's a big question.
Yeah.
Um, I was talking to one of my LinkedIn connections. You probably know him. Um, he has the new um, dyslexic thinker or something like that. A group, Dan Harris. Um, and he also raised the questions that are we out there, are we still managing,
Yeah.
because the way it's happening is just like a slag.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really interesting. I've been seeing a lot around this. We had a thing here the other day around construction, and we were talking about the sort of shifts in construction, and it's getting there, but very slow, very slow.
Yeah, don't mention construction because it's relatively so slow. But if you think about the office space or maybe technology or any
Mhm.
service based companies, are we still there? Because I can see that they talk about it, but they don't implement the methodology. They don't worry about things. And then when it's the oil price raises, the tech, the space of this world space, I would say, including UK space. They're thinking about, okay, we don't have enough money.
Yeah.
Everything is raising. So um, what do you think about neurodiversity, or what do you think about the cultural shift, rather than we survive first?
Yeah, and do you know what? It's really interesting. I find that particularly as the world's quite difficult right now, we kind of seem to revert back into some sort of safe mode. That I'm start my computer on safe mode, which is back to what we know or what we've like grown up with. And I find in these times at times people seem to be maybe regress a little bit in terms of that sort of cultural shift. Particularly around neurodiversity. We just started getting all these people into the workplace, supporting them, and they're like, oh no, save money. Like, I don't want to do any adjustments. I've heard lots of things, not just around university, but people not wanting to pay maternity pay. They're getting rid of marketeers left, right, and centre. Anything that they think is a cost that is not a benefit,
Mm.
which I think goes back to those old-fashioned mindset that people that with disabilities and neurodiversity aren't a benefit, but actually, when you look at a lot of the stats, innovation and money follows diverse thinking and diverse companies.
Mm.
And so actually what they're doing is sort of shooting themselves in their own foot, because what they're doing, they're not doing marketing, they're not having diverse teams. So actually they're going back and struggling more because they've got a
Yeah.
few people group thinking, all thinking the same, oh yeah, we'll all do this, we'll all do that. And what you need in times like this is you need to change and adapt and think, and and which having a diverse range of people really helps, particularly diverse thought. I mean, I've got ADHD. We're known for being great in a crisis. So we want you want some of us on your team when you've got a crisis, because I worked at Game when COVID was happening, and quite a lot of the team were furloughed. And we were great. We were brilliant. We handled the crisis no problem, and we did really well as like a company and as a marketing team, because that's what we were born for. You know, we made sure we managed to repurpose money where we needed to. We
Mhm.
sort of got our partners on board, and we're like, right, well, you can't spend money in store, but you can spend it online. So we were really good at thinking. I'm going to use the words outside the box, but it is that sort of way of thinking.
I understand what you're talking about, but when the war started in Middle East,
Mm.
I could say I went to Bangladesh on the, I think, 15th of February,
Yeah,
and the war started 2 days after that.
yeah,
Yeah, and I stuck over there. I could not come back. My ticket was cancelled,
yeah.
and after I came here, I spent there 3 months. And after I came here, I think the community, they're very, very sluggish. They're thinking about when it will over, when it will over. And when I look into the different type of companies and all those things, they are not talking about new diversity. They are not talking about culture shift. They are not talking about anything else. Everyone is talking about, okay, this is happened. Trump is doing this. Iran is doing that, and other countries related to those people, they are doing that, raising their voice and all those things. And still, no one is talking about cultural shift. No one is talking about fixing those problems that we have. Instead of talking about the third countries, it's I think it's relatively boring.
Mm. Yeah, and it is hard as well, because if no one's talking about it, then no one talks about it as well.
Yeah,
If everyone's the same, then it takes just a few people to kind of push it out, doesn't it? I think.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And you are in the Oxford Innovation Center. Uh, do you seeing businesses over there? I think there is more 800 businesses with the Oxos, or more than that.
yeah.
Um, uh, how do you see the as well? They are also quiet or calm. They are not talking about inclusion, or they are not talking about all those things.
No, most of them are just sitting at their desk doing busy work a lot of the
Mhm.
time. Back to that, because it's quite difficult at the moment, like you said, with the war, and that's made things difficult. I mean, in England, it's been it's been hard for quite a few years since COVID. And I found more and more that people are it does seem calm actually, but it's
Mhm.
not. Inside their heads, it's really chaotic, because what we tend to do, back to that safety thing, we go back to what we've always done, the busy work, tinkering with the websites, doing tasks that make us comfortable. And it seems like everyone's got everything together, but actually, when I speak to people, they're doing stuff that just makes them comfortable and calm, and not talking about the problems that they're having, and and like they're not hiring new teams, and they're just sort of getting on, because it makes you feel comfortable. And if you're sat at your computer working, you're being busy, and it feels productive,
Mhm.
but it makes it very hard when actually you need to be started thinking a bit differently. You need to go to events, you need to go and learn, you need to try and start moving yourself on. And it's really interesting how people do retreat back all the time.
I understand what you just mentioned here, and previously, before the Middle East war, we could see a lot of events happening in relation to inclusion, council, and all those things, and they are on a shift now to I don't know, it's not out there, and as well as people. If you talk about the people and the government, they are thinking about now how they can more improve the country regarding war and all those things, rather than facilitating or employing more people to the culture. So the growing local economy through inclusion, that was a motivation. Previously we saw that every local council, every local government, they work through that. How if they have a gap, they are not thinking about that. How it will affect people like us?
I don't know. This is the thing. It's really hard. You see a lot of these policies coming in. You don't know how they're going to affect us, and a lot of them are put in place to say, oh, we're going to make things better and more even. Not even just those sort of policies, but like, the send policies for kids at school and the other policies. All these policies, they will sound interesting, but actually, in reality, how I don't think they speak to enough real people to actually understand what's going on. And this is what always been my bugbear of the government, and a few of the meetings I've been to with some industry people. It's around the fact that they don't talk. They don't talk to, when they're talking about implementing electric vehicles, because oil and gas is obviously struggling at the moment. They don't always talk to like the DHLs that who have a massive fleet that will need to turn them into electric vehicles. They don't seem to talk much to send parents when they're talking about send. They don't engage with the people that are really struggling. They may have some think tanks, but they seem to be a lot of paid people that don't really know what it's like to live with these things. And so in reality, none of these policies seem to actually work, which is frustrating. It's very frustrating because it's nice that people are paying attention and thinking something needs to happen, but it ends up being detrimental. And I'm really worried about the send policy at the moment, because that seems to be taking away the power from the parents to the schools. And the schools these days are businesses. They are academies and they are businesses. And I don't think you should be putting children's lives into the hands of businesses. It should be either state control or parent control, because someone making money might not necessarily put people's best interests at heart. And I guess that's the problem overall as well. Back to that, not these sort of shifts at the moment, is that it's sometimes money before people. That doesn't always
Yeah,
work.
I think we talk about the inclusion. We're going to raise and solve that problem, because you probably know the prime minister is changing.
Yeah.
So we have 7 prime minister in 10 years. Okay, and if you don't have a steady government, the raising your voice will not be heard, will not be resolved. The people are thinking about, okay, change that prime minister, or change this, change that. So they are working on the top levels. They are not steady, and all of our voices are under beneath of the thing of past. Yeah, and if there isn't any steady global atmosphere or local national atmosphere, your voice will never be heard, because people don't think about, okay, we have a big problem to solve. Why are you talking about inclusion? Why are you talking about disability? Or why are you talking about all those things? So I think we need a shift for that, because without you might have a new prime minister, you might have a war in the world, but as a people, we are suffering.
And I think that's the thing. It's a bit like when you work in a company and they keep changing managers, and then you're like, oh, here we go, we've got to start, I've got to explain everything to the new manager, and we've got to start again, and they'll work differently, and everything you've done before has just disappeared. It's that very similar thing, because everyone comes in, whether it's a manager or it's a prime minister, with their own agenda. They have the things they want to do, and they want to make their mark. And so, like you said, sort of everything just sort of disappears from the past, and then we start again. And there doesn't seem to be. This is what a lot of people need, is a continuity. You need people that are going to stay the course of things, because otherwise you'll end up with half-finished policies, ones that are rushed. And I think you see this because someone will start a policy with a certain thing in mind, and then the second person finishes it with a different thing in mind. So you end up with this mixed up policy that doesn't quite suit anyone, and everyone goes, "Oh, what was the point of this?" I've done this. I said business as well. You've had a manager that's got, "Oh, we're going to do some new processes." Okay, yeah, all right. And we're halfway through the processes, and the new manager comes in and he goes, "Oh yeah, well, we'll finish those processes, but I want to change them all." And then you get these processes that don't actually work, and it's all rubbish. And this is the thing. I mean, like, I know some people struggled with Keir Starmer. I didn't think he was horrendous. I think that there's if you look at the things that they did get and how much of their sort of policies that they wanted to do, they have got quite far with a lot of them. I don't think you can tell from a government from a couple of years if they're going to be any good or not. These are long-term things. These are things that aren't going to be seen for 10 years, because that's how things work. They're a ripple effect. So I don't think you can judge a government on a couple of years of work, because they're as I say, everyone comes in and wants to do their own thing. So you need to wait for that thing to happen and to come in. And the last government I think they had was about 14 years. So 2 years versus 14, you can't compare.
You can't really do that. And we have a guest messaged us, like Bridget Gardner. You were late, so that's okay, Bridget. You can watch our webinar on replay, so you will find it, the things we are talking about. If you wanted to ask us a question, feel free to ask us, because I think we're talking about inclusion, but we're also talking about the struggle and of struggles nowadays. And you were right, Anna, that you said that the government, the prime minister, is just 2 years and they're changing him now. And one thing that I realized, that if you think about the global politics, first world countries or even US, if you wanted to change president, you can't. He will serve his 4 years. But in the UK, if you find someone that they did something bad, you can change them. And I think it's two things in a way, although I don't want to engage in politics, but we are suffering for that. So we can do a constructive criticism out there. So the politician, what they are doing, they engage themselves to be selected as a prime minister or a leader of their leader, and people find out later that they have something bad. Okay, so I think in that aspects, political leaders, they shouldn't do something bad to become a leader. Otherwise, we cannot get a stable country, because people will find out. Anyway.
You see it in football teams, those ones that keep changing their managers, they've become destabilized, and that's just on a small scale. We do need stability. I mean, a part of me thinks, you have to think about these politicians. They are human, and to be honest with you, having read what they've said about Keir in the press, I don't know if I'd have been able to stick it out, because it's been quite horrific, a lot of the stuff, and relentless. And as a human being, would I want to stick around when it's that relentless? Should a politician put up with that? I don't know, because we are human beings, and there needs to be some human decency. We see terrible outcomes from politicians. There's been a couple been murdered in the past. So it isn't a fabulous job, to be honest with you. So I mean, I never want to be prime minister. It just sounds awful. It sounds absolutely awful. So if someone, you see it with people that aren't prime minister, they just get even people getting trolled online and constant. It wears away at your mental health, and these people have families and they have kids, and so part of me thinks, well, actually, he is a human, and I don't think I would want to be able to be constantly bombarded. You can't get away from it. And it started almost immediately, and he hadn't even been in power for it was weeks, and he hadn't done anything. It was like, come on, give the guy a chance, you know. So it's been pretty relentless. And I'm not
Mhm.
saying he's perfect. He's definitely not. But, you know, we don't really know how well he's done yet because it's only a couple of years. So it's one of those. And then, you know, what happens is, you know, in 2 years' time, if we have a different government in, then we start all over again. We've got a new prime minister will have to be now. So, and then we'll have another 2 years. So it's every like 2 years. That is not
Yes.
stable.
No.
That is chaos. And you know, people should be given a chance to see what they can actually do.
Mhm.
You know, you'd hate it if you went into a job, and I've done it before. After 3 weeks, they're like, "Right, have you made us £1 million yet?" And I'm like, "I barely know the systems," you know. And I mean, imagine what that's like. People literally starting having a go at you, and there are people like that in business that do that. There's a lady the other day. She's marketing, and they were like, "Right, well, we wanted 100 leads by the end of the first month," and she was like, "Hang on a minute, there was no marketing, and I'm just setting it up," you know. So you know, there's realistic expectations. I always compare the business to government, you know, because
Mhm.
they are very similar. You know, I wouldn't say the country needs to be run exactly like a business, but you know, you need those sort of same processes in place that,
Mhm.
you know, that things are given time, they're given time to breathe, that people have to be clear, that there needs to be a good, diverse range of thinking in government, which there isn't always, which is frustrating.
Mhm.
There needs to be like consultative, a bit like if you know, I run a business. If I want to know what maybe products or services, what I need to do, I will consult my audience because they are the people that I will affect. And I
Mhm.
bang on about this, customer interviews, this, that, and the other. So from that point of view, a government should be very much the same, you know,
Mhm.
listening to the people that they are looking after. But I'm not saying that everyone's going to get their way. What's that film? Is it Bruce Almighty, where he's God, and basically he says yes to everyone's prayers, and then it doesn't work because everyone can't get their prayers because it's impossible for everyone to get their way. There's this
Mhm.
horrific balance that you have to get, which, you know, suits the majority of people, but
Mhm.
not everyone, and it is really hard to balance. And I, you know, I wouldn't want to run a government because I think it's ridiculous. It's hard enough in business, and you're dealing with 10 people. Imagine
Mhm.
dealing with 60 or how many million people we've got in our country now. You know, trying to
Yeah.
balance what they all want, it's impossible because
No, you can't.
you know, you've got people that are very, very poor, people that are very rich, people that are well educated, people that aren't educated, people that, you know, live certain this way, live that way, different. You know, it's really hard to
Mhm.
get that balance. And you know, I've worked in companies, like I said, 10 people, and you can't even get all of them to agree or, you know, or be happy. It's hard. So,
Mhm.
but at the same time, we've got to. I mean, I'm very much into looking after the obviously run neurodiverse business club with you. I'm very much into making sure that our members that are struggling of the country are getting as much equity as possible because everyone
Mhm.
should start on an equal place. And I do think there needs to make sure that from disabilities, neurodivergent, even, you know, I'm from council estate working class background from when I grew up, you know, poverty type place. You know, people need to be equalised so that we all have a first footing on things. But you
Mhm.
know, how that's done is very difficult. I know, you know, it is hard.
Yeah, I totally agree what you said because you know, rich people, they don't need to think about their different things. Like if it's education, they can go for private educations. If they need a specific job aid or whatever, they can aid by themselves. But when it's come to lower class people, lower class means poor people or middle class people, then uh, they struggle.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I cannot aid myself without the support of the government. Yeah, uh, and that is crucial for me to get little bit support. And there is also this you know, changes in the government, changes in the legislation, and who going to look after what. So you talk to someone, and on the other day he is not there.
yeah,
Yeah, so you need to start it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, please.
I would just say also, one thing that I've noticed as well is that because we've got a brilliant MP, he's a Labour MP called Tom Hayes in Bournemouth, and he's amazing. He's had SEN consultations, but the problem is they're not even their MPs don't seem to be being involved as well, just as well as us, which makes that more frustrating.
Yeah, because and that's the problem, because if you are not listened, if you are not listened, and then how can you solve problems?
Yeah.
So you are suffering, and in the way, and it's not bad for that people and that and the community as well, because when your problem is not solved, you will have mental health problem, and then you will off from work, and then what will happen? And that then the society, the community, and the culture and the economy, everything will suffer. So how we can make it progressive for either a person like me or you, or someone, they are working and and they're not getting enough help. How can we make it progressive for those people? Like, okay, yes, I know you have a problem, but you can hold on something and then maybe do something. How can we make it progressive for people?
Do you know what? It's funny because I was having a conversation similar to this the other day,
Mhm.
because there are laws in place to help us,
Yeah.
but they are very hard. It's hard to prove if
Yes.
things go wrong. Yeah, I spoke to someone the other day, and she's absolutely convinced that that she didn't get a role because she was pregnant. And there's a couple of others I've spoken to in the past sort of year that definitely because they had children, because one of the questions during the interview was, hey, you have children, but how do they prove that they did not get that job because they were pregnant or they had a child? No, it just wasn't the right fit. Or it's very easy to be a bit of a he said she said. There's no these things are very hard to prove, and so no laws don't protect us very well. And the
Mhm.
thing is, the reason we have laws is because people don't do the right thing. We have laws for murder because we can't trust people not to murder people.
Mhm.
We have laws for speeding because we can't trust people not to speed. We have laws to protect pregnant women, people based on age, so that if they're older they don't discriminate, disabilities, because people cannot be trusted to hire the right person for the right job and not discriminate, and not fire someone because they're pregnant, or all these things, all these laws. We have laws to try and protect us, but at the same time, I was reading a couple of assault cases recently, and they were like, oh well, it's really hard to prove because she has no evidence that he assaulted her, and even though it's against the law to assault her, evidence is very, very hard to come. So that we have these laws, but actually so many of them are hard to prove that actually they offer very little protection at all. I mean, I think,
Mhm.
was it that I read that something like rape cases, it's like 4% get actually to prosecution, so and the same, you see these sort of on some of the forums where people said, I'm pretty sure they didn't hire me because I'm autistic, and it came up in the discussion. They're like, can I do anything about it? And everyone's like, not really.
Not
And
really.
so and that's the problem, because no matter how many laws you put in place, unless you've got some like mind reader that can say this is exactly why they have not been
Mhm.
hired, then the only other area is education. So educating people to make sure they understand the importance, and how beneficial it is to business to have this brilliant workforce that,
Mhm.
you know, hire parents because they know how to get stuff done quickly because they've had to deal with working around children.
Mhm.
What I read the other day, and it was a sort of cartoon, and it was about people being disabled, like with fibro and chronic fatigue, and they were like, oh goodness, they get stuff done quick because they only have like 2 hours a day, some people, that they can get stuff done in, so they're really efficient at getting stuff done. And actually people don't look at this, they don't look at the positives, they just look at, that's a negative, and there's all this sort of weirdness about it. So if the laws aren't working, somehow there needs to be more education
Mhm.
to get that. But then the people that need educating don't always go and get the education. That's the problem.
No, I think you are absolutely right, because you have to have your own face, I would say, understanding, and you need to invest your time.
Mm.
Yeah. Doesn't matter you are a neurodivergent person, you are a normal person, or you are a disabled person. Everyone knows, and they will not value you until you invest to learn things. Yeah. And I think that's the first thing. So maybe the community, or maybe the local government, they are not doing anything. Okay. So how can we invest ourselves, and as well as if there are small SMEs or large corporation in the community, or in the society, how they can uh, change this to a shift, that okay, they will listen to people, or they will create more opportunities, they will value people, they will listen, to solve problems.
Yeah, and I think it's back to that what we were saying earlier about the busy work and sitting at our computers and not really facing the world, putting our heads in the sand when it's difficult. Actually, there are some really great solutions around there. There are brilliant people that you can hire, because I've heard people saying, "Oh, well, there's no one I can hire," but they haven't actually maybe actively tried to hire in different pools. I was reading the other day about how many NEETs there are, not in education and employment. There are huge numbers of these sort of young adults coming in that don't have work, that are probably absolutely amazing, but we
Mhm.
don't consider people. And actually thinking about the problems that are people having, back to that sort of diverse thinking, there's so many stats around diverse thinking companies are more profitable. If you're struggling and sitting at your desk, taking some time to look at how you could maybe manage your team better, get a bit of a more diverse team in. Even if you're not hiring them, form a community of different business owners where you can share ideas with each other and
Mhm.
include each other. If you're not in a position to hire, that's what I do. We have all different ideas. Like me and you, Dr. Sharp, we run this together. We are, you're autistic, I'm ADHD. We've got different perspectives on the world, and it's nice to sort of talk to people and get out there. And this is why I think it's so important to get out there, because, like, when I go to networking events, like, I meet other people with ADHD, I meet people with different disabilities, and I learn so much. I only have certain disabilities. I don't have dyslexia, I don't have autism, although I have an autistic son. I am not physically disabled. So I love to go out and meet people and find out what they need, what's good about them. I read. I love to understand what different perspectives are like, because actually once you do that, you understand what it's like living in other people's shoes. And
Mhm.
I think that too much today is about, they just, when in the press they talk about the labels of, like, autism, ADHD, and other disabilities, and they don't think about the actual physical human beings behind it. These are people that have lives. If I give you an example, I've been seeing a thing lots around transport at the moment, like
Mhm.
people saying that councils are spending too much on transport for their children. So
Mhm.
I'm going to give you my very real world example. So my son, as you know, is autistic, and he does not do well in mainstream, to the point that he sits in the corridor most of the day because he can't access the classroom anymore, and he does a part-time table. Now, it's not fair. He is legally allowed a full-time education,
Mhm.
classroom-based education, and so the council have been looking at, potentially, he's got an educational healthcare plan. They've been looking at maybe a SEND school for him. Most of them are full, but they have found one that will suit him. It is 40 minutes from my house.
Okay.
We don't know if he'll get in yet, because that's, once again, a long process. It's 40 minutes from my house. Me and my partner both work full time.
Mhm.
So how do we manage this 40 minutes from our house? So I can potentially do the one on there. I will be late for work, but I then could maybe adjust my day. But then someone has to pick him up at 3 o'clock. And so 40 minutes there and back is nearly an hour and a half
Yeah.
from our house. Now, whose job lets them have, if we had to do both ways, that would be 3 hours out of our day
Hmm.
to do it. So then one of us may have to give up our jobs. So
Yeah.
then, but then if we give up our jobs, I would maybe have to get carers allowance or something. But then people complain that people have disability and carers allowance. You know, you cannot win, and it's a catch too. And I want to work. I enjoy working. My partner likes working. We like, you know, carers allowance does not give us the money that we have now. You know,
Hmm.
it is very small. So our lives would change completely. And I'm not adverse to it, but it means that we would not be able to go on holidays, we wouldn't be able to do what, you know, the stuff that we do now. So what is our alternative? It's to get transport. And there are no bus services that go that way because it's in the middle of nowhere. So a taxi, and in fact, we went the other day and there was a line of taxis at home time because it's the only way this school can be accessed. It's
Hmm.
just by taxi. There's no one lives in the same location, so they can't even do multiple pickups because
Hmm.
this this school sits in the middle of Hampshire and Dorset. So
Hmm.
people are literally coming from two different counties. What are they meant to do? You know, because all the other parents have the same problem as us. They're working, they're trying to get them, and none of them are near each other, so they can't put on a bus. So
Hmm.
they're having to pay for taxis there and back. And the thing is, there's not enough schools locally. So, you know,
Hmm.
our council looked at the local ones and then a bit further. And then literally we're out of catchment. They're out of our area. They're technically in Hampshire. So what are people meant to do? But people don't see the stories
Yeah.
behind the lives. They go, oh yeah, well you're just getting free. Yeah, if we did get free taxes, I don't know if we would, but if we got free taxes, oh, you're just getting free taxes. But how else does it work? How else is this meant to work? You know, it's and this is the thing. When you go out and talk to people, you learn so much. And actually, you know, even if you don't want to do sort of some education, I mean, I did a level 2 in understanding autism because I wanted to get a bit
Hmm.
deeper into it. But just go and talk to people, talk to us, you know, and you find out what it's like.
I totally understand what you're saying, Anna. It's the same thing. I have to drop my son to school and
Mm,
picking up. So, as you know, that I'm not in full time work. So I work whatever job I do, I work from home.
mm,
And if I have a full time work, then who gonna drop him? Who gonna pick him up? And
mm,
if I don't pick him up one day, I ask him to walk home, then he will make a very very upset
yeah,
situation, like, okay, why you didn't go and pick me up? What are you doing? Because you know that I don't like to walk home. And
mm,
he felt like unsafe
yeah,
when he's walking home. So if someone from outside will see me, like, okay, he's, yeah, I have disabilities, not visible to anyone, and other things. So if someone see me from outside, they will not know what situation I'm in.
yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because also you run a successful company at the same time. And this is what annoys me because they think, oh, I couldn't hire Dr. Shah because he has to go and pick his son up, so he won't be a very good worker. And yet, you run a very successful company and you are an excellent worker
Mhm.
because someone who picks their children up knows how to prioritize things and get stuff done and
Mhm.
work around it. You know, this is what's very frustrating. And this is, I mean, you know, that a lot of people find that they own their own businesses because
Mhm.
the workforce doesn't allow and cater for this. But yet they could have a brilliant Dr. Shah brain in their business, but because of some sort of arbitrary rules in their head, you wouldn't make a very good employer just because of you had to do this and this. When actually they would have got all of this though.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah,
frustrating.
there's the catch 22 situation, like,
Mm,
as you mentioned earlier, that people don't value that, yes, you are dyslexic, or you are autistic, or you are ADHD. So they don't want to hire you, but they don't see the value that if they hire you, they maybe give you some special treatment, but with that they are getting, or they are achieving more success. And that's the thing that we need to change. So we have a comment from Bridget. There is no continuity in laws, and they are interrupted in some cases so differently.
mhm.
Where disability is concerned, it needs to be people with disability making these laws. I will laugh out loud.
Yeah, yeah,
And rules not sometimes who assume, and it needs to be consistent across all. Bridget and Anna, both of you, that's the question we're talking about, because you know there are less people in the space of making rules engagement of disabled people. So maybe I'm not disabled, or I'm not dyslexic, or I am not ADHD, I'm not autism or neurodiversity, any form of that, but I'm making the rules for them.
Mm.
So how do you feel for them
Yeah.
specifically?
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, I've seen a few politicians recently comment on neurodivergence and and things like that. I'm like, have you ever even met someone that's neurodivergent? How are you commenting on this? Because it's so wildly inaccurate that all the neurodivergent people in the comments afterwards on like Facebook are going, what is he talking about? This is like they don't even seem to know the conditions properly. They don't. Some of them don't even know the difference between ADHD and autism. They'll everyone that's autistic is the same, and they seem to conflict, like get confused between learning disabilities and autism. It's really quite bizarre, because one of them was talking about people with autism, and my son doesn't have learning difficulties. He's clever. But when I say that, then people picture Rain Man, which he's not. He's not Rain Man. He is decently clever child with autism. And I see some of these politicians describing him. I'm like, that's not my son at all. He's he's
Mm,
he's not got learning disabilities. Some do, but that's different. There are different, and it's like, or they've met one autistic person in their entire life, and they've based all of their assumptions off this one. And as the saying goes, if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person, because everyone is different.
yeah.
I just get so frustrated, because I know a lot of autistic people, I know a lot of ADHD people, not a single one is the same, not a single one of their needs is the same. I have ADHD. I would say it's moderate, but I have lots of coping mechanisms, so I don't need to claim PIP. I can just about cope. I'm in that barrier between coping and surviving,
Mhm,
and sort of not quite, but I'm not quite. I don't feel like I probably have enough that I need PIP.
mhm.
So, but that's just me. I know
Yeah.
other people that have ADHD that cannot even, they really struggle to go to work, to get to work. They are different from me. I don't need it. They do.
Mhm.
And then there's people that have ADHD, it's less pronounced than mine, in certain areas. And so they say, oh, because I'm looking at getting medication at the moment, because I'm really interested in how that might help. And I finally got to the top of list of medication after a year. Because I think I need it. And then I know someone else that said, oh, I don't feel like I need medication, because it doesn't affect my life as much. So you've
Mhm.
got three people there, completely different needs on the same spectrum. And the person that I know that does get PIP, I do not get upset because they've got PIP, because I know they need PIP. I
Yeah.
don't need PIP, so it's there, I
It's
find it
really
hard.
tough, Anna, because I applied for FIP twice, and they refused me, because I am independent and I wanted to do things differently. And when they see that someone is independent, they is all like tick boxes. So if you are okay, I'm okay. I don't want you to say I'm not okay, but sometimes I'm not okay. So you need to consider that dual situation for individuals. So their methodology and their framework is just like, if it's okay, it's okay. If it's not okay, it is not okay. There is an in between. There is a gray line between okay and not okay. So
Mm.
those people, they fix this methodology. I think they need to involve people, actual people, like, okay, how they're gonna reframe these things. And as an AI innovator, you can set things up for
Mm.
all people, because every person is different, with autism, with disability, with a lot of other things, and you need to treat every person differently. And
Yeah,
you can do that with your change of methodology and embracing AI, assessing individual needs, and make it happen for everyone. So that's the way forward. I think Bridget is also written here another thing.
yeah,
So I'm disabled physically and neurodivergence, and run my own successful accessible travel business, and have literally just launched my accessible audit. Okay, that's good. Congratulations, Bridget.
Mm.
Consulting and disability awareness training for all public facing business, because I was totally. Uh, I understand, Bridget. That's why we talk about, because
Yeah,
uh, people, they are not disabled or they are not neurodivergent, they don't understand actually what we need.
yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because yeah, you said there you're written off. I'm just reading the full, totally written off after a very successful career in theatre and anaesthetics after having a stroke. Do you know this? You hear this so much, particularly like people that have a track record of being amazing. And I worked for a business, and I earned them since I was in place. I'm not being big-headed. It just, factually, I earned them a lot of money. I turned one of their teams around. We saved about 200 grand a year in spend, and made lots more. And the moment I mentioned that I had fibro and I was just struggling a little bit because I'd overworked basically, I basically stopped. I got stopped invited to meetings. I was sidelined for projects,
Mhm.
and it was almost instant. And I hadn't changed. My performance was still the same. I just needed a little bit of slack in terms of like time to be able to do stuff. And I trained my team up, so my team were really amazing at doing stuff. So there was a flexibility there. But yeah, I didn't even get invited to really important meetings, and they started going, "Oh,
Mhm.
we're working around other people's diaries." I'm like, "Well, why aren't you working around my diary? This is a project
Yeah.
that should be mine," and because it was my area of expertise, and it was it. So I totally get you, Bridget, because this is the mad thing. This is just the
Yeah.
really frustrating thing that they're throwing money out the window because you have successful, great people, and you're going, oh, just because it's one small thing, or well, it's not small, but one thing, one aspect of them, I don't want them anymore. I don't want all this greatness because of this aspect. I'm just going to chuck the whole thing in the bin. And I don't get that mentality, because if people have a proven track record of being brilliant, what and we as humans have invested ourselves in the businesses that we work in. We have put ourselves, a lot of us put a lot of ourselves into it. And then when it comes back to getting something back, you don't really get anything.
I totally understand, and it's a challenge, I would say. So Rahan said, "What is the biggest challenge to creating an inclusive culture?" I think this. I think is the stability, is the openness. I think so,
Yeah.
because if you're not open, you cannot create cultural change, and that's not possible. Doesn't matter you are a neurodivergent person or you are non-neurodivergent person, you are not disabled person. It doesn't make any difference if you're not open, because I have seen that there are many people in neurodivergent community, disabled community, even though they are neurodivergent or disabled, they are not open for other people. They say
Mm.
that, okay, oh, you got these benefits. Oh, why I'm not getting that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not the thing.
Yeah.
You have to be
That
open.
Yeah, and it's because that's the thing. People say, like you back to what you were saying about earlier about empathy for other
Mhm.
people. Sometimes you don't have to have gone through it yourself. You just have to have empathy and listen and
Mhm.
hear people's stories and understand them, and make time for it. It's that listening side of things, because you're right. I've seen people in, like, so that person's in a disabled space, but they don't look disabled. I'm disabled, and you see
Yeah.
so stories of it. But there's different. Everything is different, and if someone, I saw this one, someone had videoed a woman. She had got out of her wheelchair and she stood up and she was putting it in her car. And so they were making out like this was a bad thing. And I was like, yes,
No.
there's such a thing as an ambulatory wheelchair user
Yeah.
who can stand up for a short period of time and to fold up the thing. Although she was struggling to get it in, bless her, because she clearly wasn't very strong. And actually, people don't know that. They think wheelchair user. This is the thing, lack of
Yeah,
education.
yeah, yeah. I can give my own example, because I was using a stick. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my left side is weak. I don't listen to I'm deaf, and I see blur vision. I cannot walk long distance. So I have to give up my stick due to people push me from back. People don't see that, okay, it's a seen disability. And when they see that I'm with a stick, they think that, okay, he's just making it up. And I'm on a disabled space, I have a disabled badge, but they think, okay, how come he gets a disabled badge? You know, that you can see their eyes, you can see their mood, you can see all those things.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, what can I do? What can I do? All disability can be visible. You can't
Yeah.
see all disabilities. And another thing as well, uh, we also, as I said earlier, that we also need to see that open eyes, empathy for people. And another thing I also have seen that some disabled people, they're making their life worst. Okay, like you said, you need to go outside, you need to talk to people, you need to do this, you need to do that. Otherwise, you're going to be on a cocoon, suffering and not getting any help or not getting your situation improved. So I think we got a lot of questions out there, and we are nearly end of our session. So do you want to answer that? What advice would you give employees hiring neurodivergent professional for first time?
I think it goes back to what we were just talking about. Talk to people. If you've got a neurodivergent employee that you want to hire, talk to that employee. Because this is the thing, I've seen people go out and go, oh, I've got a neurodivergent employee. How should I treat them? Ask them. Ask them. This is the most important thing. Back to individual needs. Everyone is very different. So if someone said to me, how should I treat a neurodivergent employee? I can tell you how you should treat me, but I couldn't tell you how you should treat Dr. Shah because he's got different needs to me. And so the main thing is back to your openness, conversation, openness. What can I do? What would make this place work well for you? How could I help you? What is best for you? Those are really simple. It's a simple conversation to have. And if you're, and people that are disabled, neurodivergent will have maybe a bit of hesitance because they think that you might use it against them. So you have to make sure that they understand it's a safe space and this is for their benefit. And then listen to them and do what they've asked if you can. That's basically it. I think that's the crux of it. It's not as complex as we think it needs to be.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Anna, because there are boundaries. There are situations, there are a lot of other things, but I think if we individually think about people, if we individually think about ourselves, if we think individually to have an open discussion about neurodiversity, inclusion, and all those things within our workplace, with family and culture, community, then we can solve this out. Otherwise, no, we can't now solve this out. And I have seen that, okay, I am neurodivergent and I'm having a mental breakdown, but I also have a family. So you need to think about that as well, because if you have a mental breakdown, yes, I understand that you are having a mental breakdown, but you need to get out with your comfort zone, yeah, to solve problems. Otherwise, you think, Anna, that you have a son, autistic son, I have autistic son. If I have a mental breakdown, or you have a mental breakdown, we might have, we are human, but we also need to think about how we can look after them.
Yeah.
If you let it go, like, okay, I cannot do anything and everything will be done by someone else, no one's going to come and help you to do that.
No. And interestingly, back on that point, this is what annoys me about PIP as well, is that, and this getting back to work, because you're judged on like how much you can do work. And back to the PIP, like I work full time, I run a business, and on that, they would probably say, if I applied, oh, you don't need it because you work. What they don't see is that when I get home in the evenings and at weekends, I'm too exhausted to do anything else. I don't do as much because I am so exhausted because I have worked and I have burnt myself out, and it's incredibly hard. And also I have an autistic son who doesn't sleep. So, and this is what really annoys me when they're saying about getting people into work. You might get them into work, but if we try and push people like full time or above their ability, they may work, but they will have no life at all, which is frustrating. And back to yours, if you've got children, then people complain that you're not spending time with your children, but you've burnt yourself out working. So then you can't, you can't spend time with your children and enjoy that time, because there's always this thing about disabled people aren't allowed to enjoy themselves. No,
Mhm.
you must suffer if you are disabled. That is, if you're getting any money from the government, you must look like you're suffering, because
Yeah.
anyone having fun or going on holiday is a big no-no, which is my absolute bugbear. I really hate that.
Yeah, so we are nearly end of our session, Anna, and I wanted to thank you everyone there who has asked questions, and we could not answer all of your questions, but thank you everyone for joining today's live webinar, and we're going to be bringing you another webinar next month. Or next month is the holiday time, so we
Oh
might
yeah,
not come with a webinar, but we will see if we can come and talk to you about disability and all those things. But please help your family, help your community, help your employees or employer or whatever. You have to be open when you talk, and you also need to think about those things, that okay, you are disabled, and if you are three-person family, and three of you are disabled, then you need to also think about the other person, how they feel. Okay.
yeah.
How you can support them. Either maybe you are having a hard time, you also need to see how they are coping. Are they having a hard time as well? So compromise is the, I would say, is the main thing, and looking after each other is the main thing. Rana, you wanted to say anything to the audience?
No, I mean, I think the main theme of this is just treating everyone individually, and
Mhm.
also talking to getting out there and talking to them, which is great. It's summer coming. So if you're a little bit less busy over
Mhm.
the summer, good time to go and chat to people and go online and find out more about different communities, because it's so worth doing.
So thank you everyone, and until next time, we might have a month break again, but you will see if we add any events online. Check our page, and talk to you soon. And thank you, and bye
Okay.
bye.
Thanks. Bye.